All right, hi everybody. My name's Sean Massey, and I'm here to talk a little bit today about how to automate your VMware Horizon environment. So just a really quick thing about me, we're gonna move on from that. We're running a little bit behind today. So why do we wanna automate EUC or VMware Horizon in particular? So first off, EUC is based on a lot of routine, repetitive tasks. There's things that we're always doing on a regular basis. These tasks are often very well defined, or at least there's some semblance of definition around them. And those processes don't change much. Once you build up your images for your environment, you're maintaining them the same way almost every time. And finally, we may have to repeat these tasks across multiple environments. So if you don't automate EUC, you're gonna be doing the same stuff to get the same results every single time you need to do an update. The net benefit of this is there's a significant investment in time and effort that's required to manage your EUC environment. So what kind of tasks do we do in an EUC environment, and what are some things that we may want to automate? Well, the big thing is patching our desktop templates. That's something we have to do every month because of Microsoft updates. We also have to update the applications that are installed on our templates. This could be deploying a brand new template or a new application, or this could be installing patches for those as well. If we're doing anything with RDSH servers, be it a published desktop or a published application, we may have to put those servers into maintenance mode so we can actually do maintenance on those servers. Once we've updated our templates, once we've performed that maintenance, we need to deploy that. So we have to schedule recompose operations for our desktop pools. And even though this isn't directly end user computing related, we may have to create new users in our environment. So we kind of put that under the umbrella of end user computing as well. And finally, a lot of the stuff that we have to do requires VM snapshots. So we may want to manage those snapshots through some sort of automated process. So what are some ways that we can automate Horizon? So first off, in Horizon View, there's three main techniques. There's Horizon PowerCLI, there's a vRealize Orchestrator Plugin for Horizon, and there's some stuff you can do with direct LDAP. If you use VMware Mirage for managing your physical endpoints, there's a PowerCLI for Mirage. There's also an API. Now, we're not going to talk too much about Mirage here, but this is here more for completeness. Finally, if you're using app volumes, there's a full REST API that you can use to perform most actions that you would normally do from inside the GUI. So let's talk first about Horizon PowerCLI. It's a traditional PowerCLI snap-in. It can be used to allow admins to manage and automate most of the routine virtual desktop tasks. It's also used effectively with standard PowerCLI and standard PowerShell. If you're comfortable with PowerShell, if you're good with it, this is a really good option for managing and automating your Horizon environment. However, there's some major drawbacks. Horizon PowerCLI is kind of the redheaded stepchild of the PowerCLI family. It hasn't been updated in quite some time. So Horizon PowerCLI was released with Horizon 4.5, which was about 5 years ago. The commandlet set that came out with that version of Horizon is almost the same as it is today. There hasn't been a lot of change, even though there's been a lot of new features added to Horizon. It also must be run from your connection servers. So if I want to script some actions in Horizon, I can't just run that script from any server like I would with traditional PowerCLI. I have to remote into my connection server, load the Horizon PowerCLI module, and then execute my commands. So it adds a little bit of complexity in terms of orchestrating your automation. And finally, it's slow. It's really, really slow. It takes a long time, probably on the order of at least 30 seconds to several minutes, for it to pull down desktops, pull down connection server pool information, and likewise. So another option that's come out in the last couple of years is the vRealize Orchestrator plugin for Horizon. This plugin contains a number of pre-canned workflows and modules that can be used with vRealize Orchestrator and vRealize Automation. It's easy to integrate with other processes that you may have already automated, or you could use the pre-canned workflows that come with it to handle your automation. Everything you do in this is policy-based. It requires that you set up groups of users, and then you can assign them access to specific resources in Horizon. So if you have a group of administrators who are only responsible for one or two particular desktop pools, you can set them up so they can only access those desktop pools. And finally, it has a built-in scheduler. So if I know that the second Tuesday of every month, I'm going to be patching my templates and recomposing my pools, I can schedule that operation to occur so it doesn't happen, or so I don't need any human intervention to kick it off. The drawbacks to this, though, are that it requires the Horizon Enterprise license. Right? The Orchestrator plugin is only available to people who buy the highest tier of Horizon. It also has a little bit of a higher learning curve for end-user computing specialists. Right? It requires knowledge of JavaScript, and it requires knowledge of Orchestrator. If you don't have those, there's going to be a steeper learning curve to get up to speed on this than there would be with something like PowerCLI. It's also not intuitive to set up. When I go to set up the Horizon Orchestrator plugin, there's a couple of steps I have to jump through to entitle users access to different Horizon resources, and it's not exactly something that's easy to set up, and the workflows don't have an intuitive name. And as I mentioned before, if you want to do any custom development on this, you have to have JavaScript knowledge. So the final option for automating Horizon is to do some sort of direct LDAP editing. Horizon uses an LDAP database on the back end for maintaining all of its data. So any information about desktops, any information about pools, about servers, that's all stored in LDAP. The drawback to this, first off, and I'm going to talk about the drawbacks of this first, because this is something that you probably shouldn't do, but there are times where you're going to need to do this. It's not supported. It's not documented. All right, so if you don't know what you're doing, you can easily break your Horizon environment by doing this, and then you won't be able to get support to get it fixed. However, there are some limited cases where you have to go into LDAP to do things. When I was adminning a Horizon environment, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, there was a bug that we ran into where desktops wouldn't recompose properly. The only way to find out which desktops which desktops were on the wrong base image was to actually go into LDAP and pull that information out, and then use that to tell, or use a change an attribute in LDAP to tell those desktops to delete and recompose. The reason why we had to do this is Horizon PowerCLI didn't expose some of that information through the native PowerShell, or through the PowerShell commandlets, and even if it had, it would have been very slow, because it would have had to take all that information out first, which took some time, and it would have taken a lot more effort to match that up and get it changed. So the final method we're going to talk about here is for app volumes. Now, app volumes has a full REST API. So anything that you do in the GUI in app volumes, you can do through PowerShell or some other language that can talk REST. So there's some documentation for this. Chris Halstead has a blog on it where he lays out most of the API. There's also another blog here that I have up on the side here of somebody who's interacted with that REST API using PowerShell. If there's something you can't find in one of those two blog posts, App Volumes uses Nginx as its web server. So you can go into the logs and find out what the calls are that you need to do. There is no official support, no official documentation for this. This is all community driven, but this is a great way to do automation around app volumes. And if you have a chance, Thomas Brown from Res Software he recently wrote a PowerShell module that actually takes care of a lot of it creates commandlets that you can use to interface with the REST API. So a couple other automation tools that you may find around end-user computing. PowerShell, they have Active Directory module. They have a script that you can use for pushing updates to VMs. VMware PowerCLI, you'd use this for managing snapshots on your VMs. And then if you have a configuration tool like SCCM, there's no reason to necessarily get rid of it because you're doing end user computing. You can use that to also help automate your desktop management. Orchestration engines, vRealize Orchestrator and Res software both have orchestration engines that you can use to tie together your scripts to create workflows. And finally, so which tool should I choose? At the end of the day, there's really no right or wrong answer. Right? You have to pick a tool that's going to fit your work style and your needs the best. So when you're going through this, one, you want to do a proof of concept. Find a tool that you're comfortable with. Make sure that it can interact with the systems that you're going to be automating. And then understand what your requirements are. What's my budget so I know what my licensing costs are? Do I need orchestration for end user computing at all? And do I need self-service? So, there's a lot of tools out there that can execute scripts on your behalf, but you can't build workflows for them. If that's not something you need, don't look at getting those tools if they're going to be too expensive. Finally, do your homework. Once you find a bunch of tools that meet your requirements, do proof of concepts. Try them out. Make sure that they actually do what they say they can do. All right, and that's it. Thank you.